Hello again. Welcome to the Daily Space for today, September 30th, 2019. Today we have a wide-ranging group of stories that are going to take us all over our solar system, and beyond. Our first story concerns Comet 2019 2I. This particular comet, discovered by a Crimean by the last name of Borisov, which gives this comet the name Borisov. This particular comet has been discovered to have an orbital trajectory that indicates it started outside of our solar system and is going to leave our solar system. This is the first time we've been able to, discover one of these objects on its way in. When we discovered Oumuamua a while back, we found it after it had already had its closest passage to the Earth and to the Sun, and we weren't able to obtain the kinds of detailed images that we're hoping to be able to catch of Comet Borisov. Now, this chance of when we caught it means that we're going to see a whole lot of headlines that start with, for the first time ever, astronomers have, for the first time ever, planetary scientists have. And we're going to all have to be careful to look at these articles and figure out, is this the first time that we've seen something? Or is it the first time that, because this is the first time we've seen an interstellar comet, we've seen something? So let me try and break that down and explain it using a story that came out today. Astronomers, planetary scientists, using the William Herschel telescope, have been able to, measure the gases that are in Comet Borisov. And this means that for the first time, they have seen an interstellar object's composition, which is a given. This is the first time we've had an interstellar object's composition to measure. It's a given. You're restating the obvious. Now, what they saw, cyanogen, is regularly seen in comets. So what we've been able to see is this interstellar comet is made up, so far as we can tell at this beginning point, the same kinds of stuff that are seen commonly in comets in our own solar system. Now, it is cool if we learn that this comet is radically different from anything we've ever seen. So far, we're not seeing that, but it would be cool if we saw that. So the headlines to look out for are the ones, for the first time ever in a comet, with Comet Borisov we have seen. The other kind of story that will also be cool but less exciting is, for the first time that we've been able to study an interstellar comet, we've seen that it is entirely identical to the comets we see in our own solar system. So, yes, this is the first of its kind. And so everything we see is going to be for the first time ever. And the thing to look for is, does it appear to be identical to the comets we already know about? Or is there something about it that's exciting and new? And both are scientifically interesting. They just lead to less or more interesting headlines. Anyways, that is my public service announcement, as well as my sharing of the information that Comet Borisov has been observed by the William Herschel telescope and appears to have cyanogen, which is a molecule that is made up of nitrogen and carbon. Okay. Moving on to the next story. This one is biological science enabled through space. One of my regular comments or questions, I guess, about research involving life forms taken to the International Space Station is, are they allowed to live when they come back down to Earth? And in this case, the answer is yes. There were a group of male mice, boy mice, that were taken up to the International Space Station. And while up there, some of them lived in an artificial environment where they were getting spun up so that they experienced one gravity in their spinning, living situation. And the other set were allowed to, well, do their best to exist in microgravity, which seems like a rather unpleasant way to exist if you're a mouse who's unable to understand what is going on. These mice were then brought back to the planet Earth, where they were allowed to procreate. And it was discovered that other than changes to the size of the testes, these mice didn't really seem to have any adverse effects from being in outer space and were able to produce perfectly happy, healthy, well, I don't know about happy, but perfectly healthy children. So in this case, the mice were not only allowed to live, but they were encouraged to procreate after that. Now, because they are indeed boy mice, this means that biologically, this is a physical science show. I'm currently struggling with just how far I can go into the biological sciences. Their gametes are constantly being, not their gametes, their sperm are constantly being recreated, created anew. And so, my dog is moving my desk. And so this means that the sperm that the mice had in them when they were in outer space aren't necessarily the ones that went into forming the baby mice when they got back down to Earth. So this is just the first step in figuring out how going into outer space affects the ability of mice to reproduce. There is going to be the need to send female mice into space and so many other things that will need to be done. But for now, boy mice that go into space are capable of having healthy, happy babies when they come back to Earth. This isn't entirely surprising considering there are astronauts who have gone to space and had children afterwards. It's nonetheless cool research. Okay, that's all I've got on that very awkward for me as a physical scientist to present kind of story. So we're going to move on to SpaceX. On Saturday evening, we had an announcement, which was really much more of a come join us in celebration from Elon Musk CEO, from SpaceX CEO Elon Musk. He came to us from their Texas facility where they have been working on building the ever so shiny Starship. And he announced that it is believed that within the next 6 months, they're going to be flying this thing. Actually, he's thinking it's going to be more like 2 months they're going to be flying this thing. We will see. But it was kind of fascinating to see the CEO of a corporation basically completely geek out about the things that they are able to create. And this particular presentation was a reminder that Elon Musk is an engineer who, like so many engineers, would really rather talk to you about the properties of, well, in his case, material science than about budgets and stocks. And during this presentation, he explained why they switched from the carbon fiber plans that they had before to developing this rocket that, or spacecraft in this case, that has a steel outer layer. Well, the steel was picked because, well, under the temperatures that it experiences during reentry, this is the best material that they can use. It has a high melting temperature, which means they need no insulation on the side of the spacecraft that isn't taking the brunt of the descent. They're using a glass structure that is extremely airy as an insulator on the other side of the spacecraft. And to listen to him geek out about the materials, I'm going to say you guys should just go watch this announcement if you didn't watch it with us live on Saturday evening. Space exploration is progressed by one person totally getting into it and geeking out and making breakthroughs at a time. And it is the sheer joy and delight of space exploration that we got to see in that discussion, in the videos that were shared. And this is in counterpoint to so much of the industrial space complex that we see where it's doing business as normal. And I sometimes wonder if it's the fact that SpaceX is still so overly enthusiastic about everything that they're doing that allows them to make the, well, series of breakthroughs that they're making. So that's all the news that we've got. It's a Monday. Mondays are almost always slow news days. And I will now take your questions. As you type them in, please use the purple circle with a star in it emote to make your questions stand out. While you type them in, once again, I am Dr. Pamela Gay. I am here to put science in your brain. Most Mondays through Fridays, either I or my co-host Annie Wilson is here to put science in your brain. I'm being redundant. We're here to do a quick rundown of all that is new in space and astronomy. The show is produced by Susie Murph and is a production of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. We're here thanks to you. It is your bits, your donations, your subs, your patronage on patreon.com that really allows us to, well, come out with the show day after day. Now, tomorrow I will be on an airplane flying cross country to go out to the headquarters of the Planetary Science Institute, and I will be streaming to you live from those offices for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we're still sorting out what's going to be going on. It will either be Annie bringing you the weekly rocket update a day early, or it will be a pre-recorded episode. There will be a show. It's just unclear how it's going to come to you. So don't go away. Just anticipate something potentially weird tomorrow. Next week, we are probably going to take a few days off. We are looking at, for our own sanity, probably taking off a week a quarter on average. We took off the week of the 4th of July. Next week is fall break for a lot of schools, and it seemed like a reasonable week to take off. So these are the things that are going on, and thank you for the bits. Thank you. Hi, do you really want this? You really, really do. Okay. Here you go. He gets really happy when you give us bits. Hi. Yes, you do. Hi. Okay. So, looking to see what questions you have. Oh, there are more bits. Thank you. Scrolling to see who they're from. Thank you, Kevlar. Come on up. Ow, that's my hair. That's my hair. Here you go. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. Looking to see what additional questions we have. Questions. I love the love affair between Astro London and Nightbot. Astro Wise asks, have any mice been pregnant in space? I seem to remember, and we did an entire episode of Astronomy Cast on this that I highly recommend. My vague recollection from the Astronomy Cast episode was there were, and it went badly. Go take a listen to that episode to find out what the went badly entails. Henny's Vorverb asks, were the centrifuges big enough to not make the mice dizzy? I'm not sure if we can communicate with mice enough to figure that out. Zizink says, I can see this leading to space cats. I have to admit, it seems like hawks would be a better option, other than the fact that they require so much more space for their wingspan. But hawks at least have the ability to get around if they get stuck in the middle of the air somewhere. Finding a cat thrashing about in the middle of the room and trying to catch it without getting shredded seems like a bad day waiting to happen. So Henny asks, do mice have any other physiological effects that humans get in space, like eye pressure thing or bone loss? I don't know if we can measure the eye pressure thing in mice. let me rephrase that. We probably can measure it. I don't know if we have measured it. And yes, they have the bone loss. Looking for more questions. So Henny asked, does anyone know how the exocomet was found? This one actually wasn't found from one of the all-sky surveys. This was found by an amateur astronomer who has a really nice telescope rig set up, who's out there observing areas of the sky outside of the surveys night after night, looking for objects that move from one evening to the next. And those things that move, those are comets, asteroids, other things that aren't detected. And it's not just from night to night. Most of these things you can actually see moving over the course of a single night. So if you observe a whole channel of fields and then repeat those observations, you can often in a single night find objects that are moving. And then by taking multiple nights of observations, you can define their orbital characteristics. So this was just a regular everyday person that has enough money to have his own telescope set up that did a really cool piece of work and now gets his name on it for all time. Looking to see if there's other questions. So Gluten-Free Space asks, is this just a coincidence SpaceX's new rocket looks like it's straight from the 1950s sci-fi? I kind of don't think that it is purely a coincidence. But it was based on materials science that the choice to build it out of steel was made. Its design is based on engineering principles. Now, the thing is, a lot of those 1950s, 60s, and 70s designs were come up with by people who were influenced by actual science and engineering practices. So since both the historic shiny steel rockets and the actual currently being developed shiny steel rockets are based on the same best practices in engineering, it makes sense that they're going to share, well, looks. Eddie is now having a Pavlovian response to the bit sign. You are right, Eddie. He totally is Pavlovian. He is a cute fluffball. It is true. It is true. And Paranor is sharing, and I'll repeat that later on, there's going to be a simulcast here on CosmoQuest X of Fraser Cain's Open Science or Open Space. He's going to have theoretical cosmologist John Carroll on talking about quantum mechanics and the Big Bang. Looking to see. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. All right, so things to know about. In addition to Open Space later this evening, we will also be, in addition to our daily space episodes, bringing you the weekly space hangout Wednesday evening and Astronomy Cast Friday afternoon. We are also, gearing up for the International Observe the Moon Night this Saturday. If you are in the Tucson area, I will be giving a public talk at the Flandreau Science Center at 7 p.m. on Saturday. And if you're not, International Observe the Moon Night is international. And there are astronomy clubs, science centers, museums all over the world that have various activities that you can go join in on. So check them out. Beyond that, I just want to remind you again, we've got a podcast. You can hopefully find it wherever you find podcasts. And if you can't, can you let us know so that we can work on fixing that? So check out dailyspace.org. And thank you for the follow, Nubs Squared. Thank you for the follow. Eddie's like, oh, I heard you say thank you. That means I get a treat. Here you go. You want this? You want this? Here. So tomorrow we are still sorting out. And the rest of the week, I will be coming to you live from the Planetary Science Institute in Tucson, which is our home institution. We are produced by Susie Murph, and we are here thanks to your contributions, your bits, your subs, your donations, your patronage over on patreon.com all allow us to keep going. If you can't support us financially, that's okay. But can you share us with your friends? Can you tell other people? Can you help us get the word out that we have science for everyone? Thank you for the bits, Wayne. Thank you. Follows are free. Please help other people follow as well. All right, so I am going to go work on the podcast version of this episode and madly get ready to travel tomorrow. So wherever you are in the world, stay tuned. I am going to raid someone in a moment. No, I have no idea who I'm going to raid. So feel free to make suggestions in the chat. Wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon. I'm trying to figure out. There we go. Have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon, and go outside and look up. Bye-bye.